Hi, I'm Nick Ross for iTWire. Today we're talking with Yubico. Who are you and what do you do, please?
Right. Well, I'm Geoff Schomburgk, and the Regional Vice President for Yubico. And what do I do? Obviously, run the business for Yubico in the Asia Pacific and Japan region. And yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And can you tell us, those who don't know already, what is Yubico? What's it do?
Yeah. Yubico is the company and YubiKey is the product that we sell. And it is simply a multi-factor authentication device to provide strong, easy to use authentication into all the online services that we do today.
So cyber attacks are obviously increasing in frequency everywhere, but human error is often to blame in a major way somehow. How can Yubico help?
Yeah, a lot of that human error is really around phishing. And phishing has, I think we're all familiar with phishing scams, clicking on links, being given phone calls to call back and so on. And that's the human error, the human element that's being targeted. So what Yubico does in the multi-factor authentication world is we provide phishing-resistant technology. So from a tech point of view, that's based on a protocol called FIDO, Fast Identity Online, and Yubico invented that protocol way back in 2011 or so with Google. The tech companies of the world thought that was pretty good and jumped on board, and we had Apple, Microsoft, and many others jumping on and created what the modern passwordless or phishing-resistant protocol is, FIDO 2, the basis of passwordless. You may have heard that term. That's the phishing-resistant technology that we have available today.
And we've heard you use the term phishing-resistant user. How can you, what would you describe as a phishing-resistant user? What's the definition?
Yeah. Well, we've got the phishing-resistant technology and the tools to do that. So we now turn our attention to, as I said before, the human element is what's at risk here, the target. So if we think about a phishing-resistant user, they're using this technology, phishing-resistant technology, in all aspects of their digital world. So it's not just them in their role as an employee of an enterprise or of a government organization, but in their personal world as well. So the things we do, we're accessing our online banking, accessing our online shopping, our telco services, and so on, and also accessing government services, us as a citizen. We've seen many examples of accessing your tax, your medical records, driver's licenses, and so on. So thinking about that in totality and protecting all aspects of your digital world, that's what makes a phishing-resistant user.
And how can organizations implement a phishing-resistant user strategy?
Yeah, so if we go back to the organizational point of view and creating a phishing-resistant enterprise based on those phishing-resistant users, thinking about a strategy, well, it's just like any other strategy. Where do I want to be and how am I going to get there? And what are those steps to get there? And that's the essence of a strategy from a corporate point of view. And so to get there, there's two main options that we see today. And one is a step-by-step approach, gradually moving the users to different technologies and getting familiar with that. And we have one very large financial institution that's embarking on that journey now. And they've gone to stage one of phishing resistant and then adding other user groups and doing it in a phased or step-by-step approach. And then we have another approach in a very large retail organization that was a little bolder. And they were doing a major refresh of their technology. So they said, hey, this is a great opportunity. Let's just roll out phishing resistant technology for all our users at the same time as part of this overall refresh or transformation program. So they're the two sort of options that you can embark upon, but really it comes down to education and communication. Because we're introducing a change for our users, we need them to understand why we're doing this, how it benefits them, and then really to facilitate and encourage those behaviors of a phishing resistant user.
And what are the benefits and drawbacks of existing MFA multi-factor authentication?
Yeah, there are many forms of MFA around today, and we hear this a lot that, oh, I've got MFA, therefore I'm okay. But in our world, where we do authentication for a living, we say, any form of MFA is better than none, but not all is created equal. And there are the techniques that are phishing resistant, and then there are other techniques that we're familiar with that we use because they're convenient, but they can still be phished. So you think about sending an SMS or a link in an email to confirm to that authentication or login, using the authenticator apps that generate those one-time codes. They can still be phished. So defining those techniques around the FIDO protocol, but also a more legacy one called Smart Card, they're the two protocols from a technology point of view that are phishing resistant. So there is a difference, and as I said, not all MFA is created equal.
And what are the costs involved for organizations in wanting to deliver a phishing resistant user workforce, let's say?
Yeah. So we look at this as an overall business case. There's the cost and there's the benefit. We know that the cost of a data breach is extremely expensive, and there's been some very high profile ones of those in Australia recently. So the upside of that is, okay, we have to do something, but it does come with a cost. An overall approach to implementing zero trust, of which MFA and phishing resistant MFA is one of those. Yes, the YubiKey, the product that we sell, has a price, and that will start from around, if I talk in US dollars, 25 US dollars. In Aussie dollars, that's about $40. For our basic phishing resistant security key, to our more popular multi-protocol devices, which are around 50, 55 US dollars, 75, 80 Aussie dollars. And we have you can purchase them, or for larger enterprises, we have an as a service or subscription model that relieves the cost burden and bakes that in. So yeah, there is a cost, but the benefit of not being phished, reducing that risk of data breaches, the other benefits we see coming into organizations are cyber insurance. Because you're introducing something that is phishing resistant, the risk from a cyber insurer's point of view is reduced. So you can see the benefit there in reduced cyber insurance premiums. Because you're not having data breaches or account lockouts, the productivity benefit that goes to your IT and your back-end team, you're not asking them to do resetting passwords and so on. So there's a cost benefit in this overall, but yes, initially upfront there is a cost.
And how fast are governments and organizations adopting passkeys in APAC and around the world?
Yeah, I think the US was probably a lead in this on the back of some high-profile breaches they had, and the government over there mandated phishing-resistant MFA for all government departments, and they decided they would fund that as well. So taking a lead there in saying this is enough, we are going to introduce this. Other governments in our part of the world, in Australia, the Essential 8, it's under the Australian Signals Directorate. Multi-factor authentication is one of the 8. Over the last 12 to 18 months, they've really upgraded that advice. So in maturity levels, phishing resistant MFA is required for maturity level 2 and maturity level 3. And under the Critical Infrastructure Act now, all critical infrastructure providers are expected to be at maturity level 2 and 3. And that applies for MFA. So we can see governments giving guidance, and one approach is to mandate it, others encouraging and giving best practice. If we look across the region, we can see that the Singapore government is quite active now, particularly in the banking and finance sector, where they've had some very major challenges there. So across the ditch in New Zealand, similarly, looking at upgrading the advice to make people aware, but also encourage them to adopt these phishing-resistant technologies. So yeah, governments do have a role. They can take the lead, and in the Australian government context, you may have seen, Nick, recently that MyGov, the government services, announced their support for passkeys, which is phishing-resistant authentication. So not only do they do as I do, but also do as I say. So we're seeing governments can actually take a lead in showing how it can be done themselves by adopting that within their own organisations.
So you mentioned this before a bit earlier, but how can other companies and organizations work with you? Do you sell direct or through the channel or what?
Yeah. So in that part of the world, we sell exclusively through channel partners. So that means in each country, we will have a distributor who imports the keys and holds stock locally. So there's no delay in getting access to that. And then a network of certified and authorized resellers who can provide the keys. And again, they'll offer their value add on top of that, and volume-based pricing applies through our reseller channel as well.
And is there anything else you'd like to add while you've got the ear of the iTWire audience?
No, look, I think the message for us is pretty clear that data breaches, phishing is a problem. There is a technology solution that's been endorsed by all the major players. It is available and becoming increasingly available. So really the message is there's nothing really stopping you from adopting phishing-resistant authentication. It makes your life easier and it makes you more secure. So we think it's a pretty good thing.
Brilliant. Geoff Schomburgk, thank you very much.
Thank you.